Major joins us now from Palm Beach, Florida. Major, good to see you. If Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are trying to plot out a path to take down Donald Trump, what must it include?
Well, it must include victories for Marco Rubio, and Minnesota simply is not enough to get that job done. Look, the Rubio campaign last night was spinning furiously that, look, the delegate allocation was close in Virginia, it was close in Oklahoma, close in other states. That's technically true, but in politics, particularly at the presidential level, you need to win states, and that will be Ted Cruz's argument against Marco Rubio. You've won one state, Minnesota. I've won Iowa, I've won my home state of Texas and Oklahoma, and now Alaska. So Ted Cruz will say, I'm the one who can and has beaten Donald Trump most frequently in this race. And if the Republican Party is desperate, as it says it is, or at least some in the party say it is, for an alternative to Trump, Ted Cruz will argue, I'm the one with a proven track record of at least beating him in a few states. Marco Rubio will say, yes, that might be true, but I did come in a close second in Virginia and some other places, and with Minnesota, at least I have the credibility to carry on this campaign, which now, of course, shifts to Florida here in just under 2 weeks. Rubio trails in the polls, but he says internal polling for his own campaign, which can sometimes be indicative and sometimes deceptive, has him within 5 points of Trump. We'll see. But if Rubio cannot prevail here in Florida, as Cruz did in Texas, he'll have a very, very hard, I would say nearly impossible task to carry on his presidential ambitions.
There's increasingly more on the line as well as we approach states where the primaries don't dole out delegates based on proportion of votes, where it's a winner-take-all state. When do we get to that point?
March 15th is the magic date for that. Florida is one of those states. Ohio is another one, which means even if you just win a narrow plurality, meaning 35, 40%, something like that, maybe even less than that, you win all the delegates allotted. And that means you can accumulate delegates quite rapidly. So what Donald Trump looks at and his strategists, they say, well, this Republican field can remain crowded until March 15th. That's just fine. And even after that, that's okay, too, because it divides the anti-Trump vote. And come March 15th, if Trump prevails in Ohio, if he prevails in Florida, he gathers all those delegates. Important fact number one. Important fact number two, if he beats Rubio in Florida, he takes away Rubio's claim to being a national candidate who can win his own home state. Same thing in Ohio. If Trump prevails in John Kasich's home state, then he can also make the claim, Kasich isn't a credible challenger, I've got all the delegates, and I'm on my way.
You mentioned that the Republican establishment is starting to hit the panic button here about Donald Trump being the nominee. It seems to me that they must be walking a very thin line, because if they go full force against Donald Trump and he does wrap up the nomination, as his trajectory seems to indicate, that you're dealing with someone who is the person who could put your party back in the White House. For the party leaders themselves, how difficult a scenario is this?
It's a very difficult scenario, the most challenging one any Republican has encountered at a leadership level in probably 5 or 6 generations, maybe longer than that, because there are Republicans who believe Donald Trump is a toxic force in presidential politics. Not all Republicans believe that, but a good number of Beltway Republicans believe that. But here's the problem that they face. They talk about preserving the party. It is now manifestly clear in state after state, Trump supporters don't care about the Republican Party, at least not how it's defined by those who reside in Washington, D.C. or who serve in Congress. So you have a grassroots activism that is supporting Trump more and more. To a certain degree, it's supporting Ted Cruz, but both of those messages, the Trump and Cruz message, are anti-establishment, anti-Beltway Republican Party. So for the party establishment, and really it's very hard to define exactly who that is and how powerful it is or is not, doesn't have an attachment to the grassroots of its own party. It says it does, but the Trump campaign has, I think, exposed the great yawning division between activist Republicans and those who seek to represent them in Washington. And so for that reason, Trump is a force. Trump talked last night at great length about how he's bringing more people into the party, how he's expanding its base, how people who have given up on politics now believe his campaign is worth following and worth supporting. And what he told Republicans is, you can go ahead and spend money on me, against me, with super PACs. Try as you might. You're not going to stop this movement. His message to them was quite simply, understand what you're seeing, try to embrace it, and get along for the ride, because if you don't, I'll probably steamroll you. That's Trump's perspective now. We'll see how long it lasts.
Major, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.